What's up, what's up, what's up? It's your boy Domuto. We're back with another video. Today we are watching JxmyHighroller. The one mistake won the Celtics and the NBA championship. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why I read it like that. But anyway, you know JxmyHighroller, you know he gonna break down what's going on. What's the mistake? I wonder what the mistake is. I do not know. Was it like a trade? He about to talk about the old trade 10 years ago. Let's see. Let's get into it. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Let's go.
It's June 27th, 2013. The Miami Heat just won their second straight NBA title. Jayson Kidd and Grant Hill just announced their retirements. And the 2013 NBA draft is about to begin. The first overall pick was going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And with their stellar track record of #1 picks, their selection was bound to be a future Hall of Famer, franchise-altering caliber player.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select
Anthony Bennett. R.I.P. David Stern. R.I.P. David Stern.
Nevada, Las Vegas.
Turned out, he was not. On June 27, 2013,
this draft,
Cavaliers selected Anthony Bennett with the
was
first overall pick in the draft.
Mid as hell,
a player who would go on to play just 4 seasons in the NBA, never even averaged 5 points a game, and is widely considered to be the biggest bust in NBA history. And somehow, the Cavaliers drafting Bennett wasn't even the worst decision a front office made in the NBA that day.
The Brooklyn Nets.
Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry, all going to the Brooklyn Nets. Celtics get 3 #1s, 2014, 2016, 2018. Humphreys, Wallace, Evans, just a bunch of stuff. Clearly the Celtics.
A bunch of stuff is
in
crazy.
What was described by many as one of the worst trades in NBA history, the
Definitely
Celtics traded away their 2 All-Stars in Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce for 4 aging role players, a rookie who played 5 minutes a game.
And it's funny because, like, the Celtics took a long time to get a championship. You can argue that Celtics should have had a championship, but they got it. You know what I'm saying? And then I remember the Nets fans was like, people after they got Kevin Durant, Kyrie, everybody was like, well, maybe Brooklyn did win the trade, or might actually won this battle between the Celtics and the Nets, and they still didn't win it. Like, that shit crazy. The Nets really
3 first-round picks and a pick swap. A big haul for the Celtics, but the ultimate really 50 cents on the dollar trade. Fans were shocked, appalled, the trade being described as completely lopsided. Trading away 2 all-star caliber players and a starting level veteran for 5 players, the majority of them probably won't even see the court in a Celtics jersey, and 4 picks that may or may not pan out, unforgivable. But little did fans know, 11 years later, this trade would trigger a sequence of events that would lead them directly back to a title.
Even back then, I was like, oh, they traded for them old niggas. Even though when I was younger, I was like, okay, so now they might do something. They might do something against the Heat.
Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. Right
Shout out to
now,
him,
all new
support.
customers who bet just $5 DraftKings Sportsbook. In basketball years, 2013 feels like a lifetime ago. The league was completely different. We had yet to be introduced to some of our favorite players. 3-pointers didn't dominate the game, and the Boston Celtics looked like this. The core of their 2008 championship winning roster still intact, minus Ray Allen. This team and this team are worlds apart, with nothing in common other than the name on the front of their jersey. This 2013 team was good, but the door on their championship aspirations was closing quickly, and time would tell that they would never go on to win another championship. What they would do, however, was inadvertently spark a chain of events that would ultimately lead to a championship over a decade later. They didn't know it at the time, but this team was about to make the ultimate sacrifice that would inevitably guide the future of this organization back to a championship. And it all started with one trade.
Shout out to Danny Ainge for doing that trade. Danny Ainge saw the writing on the walls, like, the motherfucker, this shit's over. They kept losing to the Heat every year, down there. I think, most of these playoff losses, they would lose to the Heat every year. They wasn't gonna beat the Heat. They wasn't gonna get past the Heat, and they were getting old. You know, KG, it wasn't the same after he got injured in 2009. Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce still has some productive seasons after this, with the especially notably this with the Wizards, and notably the Wizards, and Yeah, Terry, he was pretty much done. KG, he did a little bit, whatever.
Well, there was a huge trade agreed to last night, and this is the one Berman is certainly not happy about. According to reports, the Boston Celtics will send Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett.
This was crazy. I remember watching this draft and that trade happened. I was like, what the fuck?
And 3 first-round picks.
It was crazy.
The rebuilding movement in Boston is clearly in full effect now. In 1 week, the Celtics Nation has said goodbye to Doc Rivers, Pierce, and Garnett. The Nets, meanwhile, have put together an all-star starting 5. It's looking pretty good.
In the summer of 2013, the Celtics broke headlines by trading Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Brooklyn Nets for what felt like to fans at the time very little in return. The deal itself wasn't great, but trading away the heart and soul of the team was an emotional gut punch for Boston fans. Not only was the team that Boston fans grew to love completely stripped away, but this trade meant the Celtics were going to be in rebuild mode for the foreseeable future. But Celtics GM at the time, Danny Ainge, had a plan,
a lot more teams
a timeline that was going to take the Celtics to the lowest depths of the league before inevitably bringing the organization back to glory. And that timeline began just 6 days after this fateful trade.
Alex Caruso,
on July 3rd, 2013, the Celtics hired former Butler University head.
Hold on, boy. Shout out to the Bulls. Give him my thunder. Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey. I love it, man. And the straight up trade, we didn't trade none of our picks. That means we can still use those picks to get a better player. Oh man, thank you. Oh my God. And I hope, and Josh Giddey, despite outside of the court, Josh Giddey is actually a good player. I think he has potential. He only 21. People say he ain't showing all-star potential. Like, he's only 21 years old, so he actually turned out to be really good. You know. He could develop a jump shot and, learn how to do all that other shit. Let go.
Head coach, Brad Stevens. Now, Stevens had never coached in the NBA before. He was just 36 years old, and he was handed over one of the worst rosters in the league. The 5-player haul the Celtics got in return for Pierce and KG was about as inconsequential as expected. Keith Bogans and Marshawn Brooks played a combined 10 games for Boston. Chris Joseph played a whopping 24 minutes in a Celtics jersey. Chris Humphries was on to a new team after just 1 season, and Gerald Wallace was retired within just 2 seasons, which meant that the near future of the most successful and storied franchise in
Celtics,
NBA history
I feel for
would
y'all,
be determined by their 4 newly acquired draft picks.
By
the end of the 2016 season, 3 years after the infamous trade with Brooklyn, the Celtics roster looked like this. The 2 remaining players from the 2013 roster were Avery Bradley and Jared Sullinger. The team was painfully average throughout those 3 years, and they used that 2014 first-round pick they received from the Nets to draft James Young, who didn't really pan out. But they did have an all-star guard in Isaiah Thomas, and 3 remaining picks from that trade with the Nets.
That was a
what they managed to do with these picks would become a masterclass of NBA management and nothing short of a miracle.
2016, Brown, 17, Tatum. Who'd they get 18? Was that Robert Williams? I don't know.
It all starts with the Nets being absolute dog water in 2016, winning just 21 games, the 3rd worst record in the NBA. This gave the Nets great odds in the draft lottery and resulted in them landing with the 3rd overall pick in the 2016 draft, a pick that now belonged to the Celtics. Now, at the time, these picks that the Celtics received were a complete shot in the dark. Many people believed this 2016 pick was going to be a mid to late first rounder because no one thought the Nets would be as terrible as they were.
They were ass.
The picks are first rounders in 2014, 2016, and
Danny
2018.
Danny
now,
Ainge,
they will probably not be lottery picks because of the fact that the Nets would probably be doing well by then.
Turns out this pick wasn't just a lottery selection, it was top 3. And with this 3rd pick, Boston selected a 6'6" two-way guard out of Cal who was getting comparisons to Jimmy Butler.
With the 3rd pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Jaylen Brown from the University of California, Berkeley.
Is Jaylen Brown the best player on this draft?
Jaylen Brown got off to a slow start with Boston, but the potential was clearly there. And with the addition of Al Horford, who signed in the offseason, the Celtics would go on to have their best season in a decade, winning 53 games, earning the #1 seed in the East, and making a run to the conference finals. Their luck was turning around. The fateful trade in 2013 fading into the past. But that Nets trade would prove to be the gift that
Sabonis,
just kept on giving.
That's tough. Siakam. Yeah, DeJounte Murray. Jaylen Brown, it's an argument for him being the best player in this draft.
After their 2017 season, the Boston Celtics were set up for one of the weirdest occurrences that can happen in the NBA. As bad as the Nets were in 2016, they managed to outdo themselves in the following season, winning just 20 games and having by far the worst record in the league. And this meant that despite the Celtics finishing the season as the 1 seed, thanks to that 2013 trade with the Brooklyn Nets and the 2017 pick swap that came with it, the Celtics had the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft. Now, this has happened before, both in 1978 when the Blazers finished the season as the 1 seed and the Pacers just willy-nilly traded away their first overall pick before the draft, and in 1982 when Cavs owner Ted Stepien traded away their first-round pick a few years prior, leading to the Lakers having the #1 pick in the draft after winning a championship. In fact, Stepien was so reckless with his trades that the league had to step in and make a rule, essentially preventing owners and GMs from shooting themselves in the foot. So the fact that the Celtics had this pick in the first place was miraculous. But what Danny Ainge did next was not a matter of good fortune, but rather genius.
Trade it down.
Instead of using their first overall pick, Ainge decided to trade down and swap picks with the 76ers, giving them the first overall pick in return for the 3rd pick in the draft and a future first rounder. The Celtics front office already knew who they wanted in the draft, and it wasn't Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball. They also knew that they were going to get their preferred player regardless of...
The Lakers really... Look, shout out to Lonzo Ball, because Lonzo Ball is actually a good player. The Lakers really could have got Tatum. Should have got Tatum. Oh, they could have got De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell. The Lakers. To be honest, we should talk about that more. We should talk about this more. I guess Lonzo was used to get AD. I guess that makes sense now, because if they would have got Donovan, they wouldn't have traded Donovan, because Donovan's too good. De'Aaron Fox, he showed pretty good potential his rookie year, first couple of years. So yeah, damn. Lonzo wasn't shown as being like a great player yet. So yeah, damn, that's crazy. So if the Lakers would have got Donovan or De'Aaron Fox, they could have, or they would have traded less to get AD. Then I don't know.
If they were picking first
come back healthy,
or third. I don't know. So in one of the ballsiest moves in draft history, Ainge traded away the first pick for the 3rd, got the player he wanted, and got a free future first rounder in the process. The player they selected in the 2017 draft was just the player they needed.
With the 3rd pick in the 2017 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Jayson Tatum.
Yes, sir. That nigga got LMA
By 2017, the Celtics went from an average team drifting in no man's land to earning the top seed in their conference and securing one of the best young duos in the entire league. Their next task? Building a championship team around their new young talent. And they still had one more pick remaining from the KG Pierce trade. So on August 30th, 2017, 2 months after they drafted Jayson Tatum, Boston traded away Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, and that 2018 first-round pick they received from the Nets in return for Kyrie Irving. By the end of the 2017 offseason, the Celtics roster had completely turned over once again. The first seeds of a championship team were being laid. But time would prove that this team wasn't quite ready for the big stage. The Celtics were good, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals in their...
They legit got Gordon Hayward for no reason, because the reason why they got Gordon Hayward was because of Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford, I believe, right? And Isaiah Thomas got traded away. Didn't Al Horford leave like the next year or some shit?
First season with Kyrie and winning nearly 50 games in his second season with the team. But it became clear that Irving did not share the same priorities or expectations as the organization. So in the 2019 offseason, Kyrie decided to not return to Boston and ironically signed a 4-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets. This was a huge blow to the Celtics. It completely caught them off guard. They lost an all-NBA player, and they got nothing in return. The first step backwards for the organization during their rebuild. At this point, the Celtics knew they had a solid foundation with Tatum and Brown, and if they wanted to win, it would be with a team built around these two. So that's what they did. Over the next year, they drafted Peyton Pritchard in the 2020 draft. They acquired Luke Cornett in a trade during the 2021 season. They signed undrafted free agent Sam Hauser, and they traded to bring back Al Horford in the 2021 offseason. Yep. By the start of the 21-22 season, the Celtics finally had some continuity with their team. 10 players from their 16-man roster returning from the 2021 season. But 8 years after their 2013 trade with the Brooklyn Nets, long after the residual aftermath of the trade had seemed to come to its natural conclusion, there was one last gift that trade had to offer for the Celtics. Now, if you can recall, in the 2017 draft, the Celtics used their pick they got from the Nets to draft Jayson Tatum, but not before trading away the first pick for the third pick and a future first rounder. Well, that future first-round pick came into play in 2019 when the Celtics selected Romeo Langford with the 14th overall pick. Now, Langford didn't quite work out for the Celtics, and so in February of 2022, the team packaged Langford, Josh Richardson, and 2 first-round picks in a trade with the San Antonio Spurs in return for Derek White. And just like that, nearly a decade after what was described as one of the worst trades of all time, the Celtics turned an aging Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry into Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. 8 years later, turns out that trade wasn't so bad after all. But the Celtics weren't done yet. After a finals appearance in 2022, the team was hungrier than ever. They were close. They had the tools. They knew they were still missing some pieces, and they knew just where to get them. But in order to have a chance at a title, they would have to make their biggest sacrifice yet.
They really did trade Marcus Smart, boy, man.
On June 23, 2023, just 3 weeks after their season came to an end, the Boston Celtics broke headlines in a 3-team trade with the Memphis Grizzlies and the Washington Wizards. Through this trade, the Celtics acquired Kristaps Porzingis. What they had to give up? Their leader and the heart of their team, Marcus Smart. A trade that was described as one of the most difficult decisions the organization has had to make in recent history, but it had to be done. The Celtics were one step closer to their ultimate goal.
I get it,
and
though.
just before the start of the 2023-2024 season, Boston made one last move that would prove to create the winning formula they had been seeking.
Drew Holiday is a Celtic just days after being dealt from Milwaukee to Portland. In exchange for Holiday, the Celtics have sent Rob Williams and Malcolm Brogdon to the Blazers. Portland also gets a 2024 first-round pick via Golden State and a 2029 first-round pick. Here's what Jaylen Brown.
And with the acquisition of Drew Holiday, the Celtics would go on to dominate the 2024 season, having one of the greatest seasons in NBA history, resulting in an NBA championship. Over the course of a decade, the Celtics went through a massive rebuild that featured 112 players, 30 draft picks, 4 coaches, 2 GMs, one of the worst seasons in franchise history, 5 conference finals appearances, and finally, they had their championship roster. All of this stemming from 4 measly draft picks the Nets threw in as consolation in a lopsided trade 11 years ago. Look at the Celtics today and all of their talent, their record-setting season, the championship they earned, and you'll see a team that was bound to win a title. They've been called a super team, an easy path to the finals, too good for their own good. But when you take a step back and look at the long road the Celtics took to get here, you'll find resilience, sacrifice, patience, risk-taking, genius management and coaching, and an organization that has been meticulously crafting and building their championship team for over a decade. This championship was no fluke. If finding themselves in the same situation, I'm not sure how many organizations would have the foresight or composure to make some of the moves Boston did throughout this process to get where they are today. In the summer of 2013, the Boston Celtics made what was thought at the time to be one of the worst trades the NBA has ever seen. But unknown to them, 11 years later, this infamous trade would trigger a sequence of events that would put the Celtics on a crash course with NBA history and a championship.
Nobody, I think, even at the beginning, nobody thought there was a, I mean, probably at the beginning of that trade, people thought it was the worst trade. Let's finish the video. Hold on, I'm going to talk to y'all afterwards. I guess the year one, but after they realize, okay, Paul Pierce and KG are looking really old out here. Darren Williams is not that good. Joe Johnson, is good. Brook Lopez is good, but Brook Lopez kept getting injured or some shit. I remember that. And then it was just a weird lineup. And then they had Paul Pierce come out the bench. Terry wasn't the same. Like it was a nasty time. It was a nasty time. But yeah, after like a couple of years, people were like, oh yeah, Celtics won this trade. Once you got to like the Jaylen Brown, Jaylen Brown started showing, okay. Once they got Isaiah Thomas was doing his thing. Once they got Tatum doing his thing. About 4 years later, people were like, oh, this team is actually good. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, shout out to the Celtics, man. Shout out to the Celtics. But I was waiting for Jaylen Brown and Tatum to get a ring, bro. I feel like they slowed down their process so many times. First, traded for Kyrie. You trade for Kyrie, you slow down the growth of Jaylen Brown and Tatum. They did that. They did the same with Kemba Walker, even though Kemba Walker not as bad as Kyrie, but still, you're slowing down that growth. You're slowing down that growth because Tatum and Brown need the ball in their hand, you know what I'm saying, to figure out how to do what they need to do. So finally, they figured it out. They got Drew Holiday. Like I said, shout out to Marcus Smart. He deserved a ring, but they traded you. I know. I'd be mad as hell if I was Marcus Smart. Like, damn. I feel a little type of way. But anyway, shout out to JxmyHighroller. Check out the last JxmyHighroller video right here. Check out another video right here. And I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.